friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be sitting at my bedroom next to my other bookshelves because I did not feel like standing for this video. But today's video, I'll be talking about why Fear Street Prom Queen was such a big disappointment that I had to rewatch the entire trilogy to make sure I wasn't gaslighting myself into thinking that the trilogy was absolutely amazing. Before I get started on the rant, if you like these kind of videos from me, I do the occasional like movie review, TV show review, video game review on this channel alongside my book reviews. So if you're interested in any of those, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and let's go. So let me start off with the synopsis. Oh, I'm gonna break this down before I get into the actual like nitty-gritty of the review. Start with synopsis. I'm gonna go into obviously trigger warnings. Then I'm gonna go into kind of the rules that the original trilogy has set. Just a quick little cootie patootie reminder. Then I'm gonna go into the review and why it was just not that good. So starting off, this one is set in 1988, which is smack dab between Fear Street 1994 and Fear Street 1978. This follows young Lori, who has not had the easiest upbringing. Her mother was blamed for her father's stabbing, even though a court of law has proved them innocent. So she's just kind of vying for some kind of normalcy in her life. She doesn't know what that looks like, but in her mind, it's winning prom queen. So she signs up, tries to do the whole prom queen thing, and I think the night before or the night of prom kind of happens in between. The members of the prom court start getting brutally murdered, and they have to kind of figure out who this killer is before it ends up killing her. Obvious trigger warnings. This is, I believe, a rated R film, so blood, gore, violence, death, murder are kind of the bigger ones on here. Moving on to the rules that the trilogy set, like it was set in the lore of the original trilogy that this is the thing that happened. I figured this would be really important for being able to understand why Fear Street Prom Queen fell flat in so many ways. If I didn't explain it, it would just look like I'm being bitter, which I'm not. I have reasons, and I am kind of bitter because I wasted like 2 hours of my life. So just some things to cover. I did end up rewatching the entire trilogy through a depressive episode over the weekend and made my fiance watch the entire trilogy with me because of my depressive episodes during the weekend. So I rewatched them after I watched Prom Queen because I was like, am I gaslighting myself? It was just because it was a good, it's Goosebumps, it's by R.L., well, it's not Goosebumps, but it's by R.L. Stein, and I had like some nostalgia issues going on. Turns out I was not gaslighting myself, and it just really sucked. Here, I'm going to talk about the parts of the lore that the trilogy set and then why the trilogy itself is a standout. Starting out with the standout, the original trilogy had a really large cornerstone, which was its queerness. We have it in the first movie, we have hints of it in the second movie, and we have it in the third movie. We have parallels between Dina and Sarah, who want to be openly out but is afraid of, not afraid, but like knows that there are consequences to being out. We have parallels between Sam and Cindy, who both want out of this town and are willing to fit into a heteronormative form that may or may not serve them to be able to leave this. Alternatively, the other side of the other side of the tracks, I guess, is Sunnyvale, where nothing bad happens to this town. This is like what happens when you follow the heteronormative standpoint. You dress up in polos, you keep yourself super clean and super like in line with the rules society set out. You have a cute boyfriend that's the football player, well known or whatever, and you just avoid all the things that would cause you to be different and cause you to be a shady side, which is the town that the series is set in. The other thing that was kind of like lore and the other cornerstone of the trilogy are the killers. The killers here, as we learned after the second, one of the two. Those two movies, that the killers are typically chosen because they're pillars of their community. They are kind, loving, sweet, and just like a very warm person that everyone gravitates towards, which makes them becoming a murderer even more heartbreaking to everyone around, because this seems to come out of nowhere and it really just seems like the town causes them to snap. The last concept and the last kind of cornerstone of the trilogy is this witch's curse. We learned from the first movie that Sarah Fear is the witch who has cursed the land of Shadyside and causes every few years for people to go absolutely crazy and commit a mass murder. This concept of a curse is very overwhelming and a suffocating force in this town. We see a lot of people in this town succumb to alcoholism, gambling, and just a lot of like unhealthy habits to be able to cope with the fact that there's no getting out of this town, that this town will eventually kill you. There's not if this town will kill you, it will kill you. And that no matter what you do, this is your life. There's no getting out of it. Moving on to the actual review, starting with I guess like the rules of the trilogy, which were non-existent in the Prom Queen installment. Like literally all the rules were just tossed out. It's really unfortunate. There were some mentions of Sarah Fear, but not at the same gravity. It was like throwaway lines. You see it written down on like a little like on like the wall of graffiti or something, and then you see it at the end where the mom's blood forms the witch's curse, but there's no ever connection of that. There's no moment where like the character starts to hear someone call their name. There's no that weird little fly, no kind of like blank stare, I want to say, that all of the killers seem to have. Realistically, the curse was only thrown out at the main character to hurt her, because her Laurie's mother was blamed for killing her, for stabbing her father. Again, proved innocent by the court, but everyone says it was the curse of Sarah Fear, which, if you've seen the original trilogy, you know that the curse is not only aimed to kill one person, but aims to kill everyone in that vicinity. It doesn't stop until they are stopped. And the reason for the mass killing that occurs in the movie wasn't because of the curse, actually. Like, you're like, oh my god, it's the curse. Oh my god, there's 2 of them. Oh my god, what's happening? It's not because of the curse at all. It's because the family really wanted the mean girl, their daughter, Tiffany, her name's Tiffany, to become the prom queen. And they were willing to do whatever it took to get her there. And that was their whole reasoning for murdering teenagers. It also just removed the concept of Sunnyvale and Shadyside, because in this one, Laurie and Tiffany are both living in Shadyside and they're across the street from each other. Tiffany has this beautiful mansion, this perfect life, her parents are rich, she's always dressed in the finer things, and Laurie is more of a thrifter. She saves up her money, she doesn't have that kind of luxury, and they don't live across 2 different towns, they live across the street. So it kind of, again, takes away a lot of the important things that made the trilogy, which is why I think it fell flat for a lot of people, and I really wanted to like it. Maybe I'll get into how I would fix it, but I didn't write it down in my notes, so I'll just kind of ad-lib it. Moving on to the characters, none of these guys were memorable. I can barely remember anyone's names that wasn't Laurie and Tiffany. Like, I really wanted to like Laurie. She seems like the stereotypical like good girl. She follows the rules, she's very quiet to herself, you know, the girl next door with not a lot of money. And I wanted to find some redeeming quality in Tiffany. Something that tells me like, oh yeah, she was forced to do this, her parents placed these expectations upon her and yada yada yada, but it just never happened. They really never moved past these like initial stereotypes that they're like crafted from. Tiffany remains the mean girl throughout the entire movie, despite you seeing a little bit, thinking a little bit that she's moving. Laurie still remains this very goody girl two shoes who doesn't want to stray from this idea of perfect. I got super bored of them really quickly. Like, I could not care less about Tiffany's plight or Laurie's goals. The only character that really stood out to me aside from these 2 was Melissa, because she had a moment where she was just like, what we're doing is not okay and we have to be a decent person, and then she was killed off not 5 minutes after her showing a bit of humanity. We also just have these characters for such a short amount of time. Like, I know that the Fear Street trilogy, like in chronological, technically took place between like 3 days, 4 days. We had these characters for even shorter. We only had them for 1 movie as opposed to the original trilogy that we had. We only get them for like maybe a couple of days, and it's not even that we're shown who they are in these couple of days. They don't exist outside. I think my biggest issue with the characters, aside from them being one-dimensional and focusing on like a lot of really tired stereotypes, was that they don't exist outside of this movie. And what I mean by that is like, you're gonna be like, Therese, of course they don't exist outside this movie. It's a movie, we only have them for this. But what I mean by that is that we don't see much of the characters' interests, their goals, their inner workings, like their thoughts. outside of prom. Prom, cute boy, prom. Like, we don't know what Laurie wants to be when she grows up. We don't really interact with any of the side characters when they were a really huge cornerstone of the original trilogy. Rip, Simon, and Kate. Like, I don't want to compare it too much to the original trilogy because they're different, but it's supposed to fit in this. It's supposed to fit in there. It's not supposed to stick out, and it sticks out. But I guess I'll talk more about that existence in a little bit. Queerness wasn't really a thing in this one, like, at all. We had like a hint of a queer person in Laurie's best friend, whose name I do not remember. And the only reason I say that is because they showed up in a suit to prom and they were artsy. You know, it's as if we were back in the actual like 80s where we had to use these tropes to get across someone's queer instead of making someone queer. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't much of a thing here, whereas in the trilogy it was kind of the entire underlying thread of the movies. We also use queerness as kind of a way, like, there's a hint, there's a little teeny hint, or Laurie and Tiffany having a little moment. However, it was just, the concept of queerness here was used to juxtapose the fact that Laurie did not want to be different. It wasn't like, it just, I don't know. It was just used to juxtapose the fact that Laurie didn't want to feel different and she wanted to feel normal. And her friend, her artsy-fartsy friend who shows up in a suit and torments everyone with her art, is the antithesis of what Laurie wants. Which is, again, some implication of queerness in there. Which is just a really tired trope that I dislike seeing in movies or in books or any kind of media that I consume. I really don't like seeing the main character wants to be normal, and normal doesn't mean queer or queer adjacent. It's just a tired trope. It's 2025. I need more from that, or at least I need it to go somewhere. Like, at least with Cindy, we see that she kind of turns away from her potential queerness, or at least she's supposed to represent that kind of person who turns away from queerness to look for a normal life, or Sam more so. But it went somewhere after, you know? It went somewhere. This went nowhere. And again, it's just a tired trope that I'm just not a fan of anymore in the year of 2025. And then the particular tragedy that the killers were like these cornerstones of their community. They were well loved. They were trusted by everyone. Everyone who knew them knew that they were going to go somewhere, was turning into this killer who murdered everyone. Not a thing. It's not a thing. It really just kind of lost a lot of gravitas for me the moment I realized that the killer was not a mindless zombie who was possessed by a curse to kill people against their will, but was something closer to like prom night, which is really unfortunate because that was the entire tragedy of the series, or one of the tragedy of the series, that these people will eventually kill you. Someone who you trust very much and think of the world of them will eventually be the cause of your death. And it's just, I don't know, man. It was just sad to have that realization set in that, that it was kind of like a really weird person killing everyone and not someone who was possessed by a dead witch, but not a witch because it wasn't actually her. Moving on to the pacing and kind of where I talk about my original point about these characters only existing in this little bubble. The pacing was just kind of sad as well. I originally thought this movie was going to be about the killer. That we were going to watch the main character, especially since the cover of it. Like, something about the cover of it just screams, I'm going to kill everyone. That we were going to follow the point of view of the killer, that this girl really wants to be prom queen, and is like kind of, well, like, you know, fits the standard of what the cause of be chosen. She was well liked, straight A, she had a bright future ahead of her, and she really wanted to be prom queen. And then we would switch into the killer's, like the curse's point of view, where it slowly starts setting in for her that all these people are in her way of becoming prom queen, and it kind of molds her mind and makes her kind of a little more paranoid as the week goes by. And eventually she succumbs to it on prom night, thinking that the only way for her to win prom queen is to kill everyone. And she sits in it, and the possession takes over, and she commits mass murder. That's what I thought. I think that would have been a really, that's how I would fix the movie. Part 1. But we get them for maybe like 3 days max, and it's not even like 3 full days or 3 action-packed days. It's a lot of time skipping. It's like, here's Lori in school pining over the cute group. Here's Lori in the place she works pining over the cute boy. Here's Lori in the thrift shop looking for this. But it just didn't go anywhere. Like, at least in the original show, it was, yeah, it takes place in like 3 or 4 days, but we got a lot of information, a lot of like back-to-back moments for it, that it wasn't just like time skips and us figuring out where we are in the day. Instead, it starts us kind of around either like a day before the prom or the day, yeah, either 2 days before prom or the day before the prom. So we only really get these characters in this short amount of time, and like I said, they only really existed in this bubble. We only knew about prom. We don't know what college Lori wants to go to. We don't know how she's planning on paying for college. I feel like in the original trilogy, each character, no matter how small, had their own little complexities about them that made them not only fully fleshed out, but also made us believe that they could survive this curse and make it out of here. Like, we know Simon's been struggling to keep his support his family since he was 15. They're now, I think, 17 or 18. Kate's valedictorian, and she's really trying to leave this town and is kind of turned to drug pushing to get enough money to be able to leave. Dina is stuck in her relationship with Sam. She thought Sam was going to be her only salvation out of this hellhole, and now she's kind of allowed herself to sink into this depression that she's never going to get out. This is the only life she's going to ever live. And we have Josh, who kind of true crimes his way throughout the entire trilogy, teaching them about the murders. So they all existed outside of this, and they all had their things. Like, Josh doesn't answer the phone or get the door. Dina makes mixtapes. Dina was in the band. Simon was a mascot. Kate was a cheerleader. Like, they had more to them than just prom, you know, or just they existed outside of it. So that way when the movie ended and we lost the characters, or they managed to move forward, we can see that we can see a future with them, or more in the future we thought we were going to have with them. Prom Queen had none of that. None of that. It was just, I'm going to work to prom, and then after that I will float away into the ether, because that was all they were really good for. Moving on to the kills, which again, it's a thriller. Big cornerstone of this is a freaking mass murder every few years. So the kills have to be amazing, and they were kind of mid. They weren't even mid. I don't even remember any of them, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think the only one I remember was when the guy pushed the girl into the electrical wiring and she got electrocuted. Or when Tiffany, like, falls and gets, like, impaled on a pike in their home. But other than that, none of the murders were original at all. And that's coming from the trilogy where there was a bread slicer, literally got hacked to pieces by an axe, and then eyes getting plucked out. They were just unoriginal, and I really wanted more, especially coming from a trilogy that, again, one of the main plot points is getting brutally murdered. Moving on to the plot. I think the plot had a good premise. Again, I was excited for it. I think Prom has a really, like, high stakes kind of feel for a lot of teenagers. I remember seeing people crying at my prom. I remember people fighting at my prom. But it really went nowhere. It really pushed the focus away from the curse and the lore, which is understandable given the fact that the trilogy kind of completed all the information we needed. It could have still added more to the lore in its own way, either by giving us a backstory on the killer and making the killer the focal point, or just anything, really. But much like the characters and the kills, the plot was also very one-dimensional and lacking. How I would fix it is we have either two perspectives we can go from. Either from Lori's perspective as she slowly devolves into the killer. We see her have really good ties to the community, to her friends. Yeah, there's the mean girl Tiffany, but they have their moments where it's kind of charged with some sexual tension to keep the queerness line in there. And we see her devolve into the killer as she's like getting more and more focused on prom and not so focused on her friends or anything happening around her, just prom. The curse takes hold and she spends the entire week, or just the last couple days, hearing someone call her voice, seeing flies everywhere, a voice telling her that her friends are in the way of her becoming prom queen and she has to get rid of them. She fights this, similar to Tommy Slater kind of fighting it for a little bit before completely succumbing to the curse and causing the mass murder in the during the prom night, and then proceeds to kill all of the prom court, or I guess starts killing the prom court before devolving into the whole mass murder, depending on how the curse wants to take place, which I think could add a lot of layers to the curse and give us something more to go off of in the future installments or future prequels, should they decide to after this mess. And I think that would be a really good way to kind of give us more info, and like we could do like a Ruby Lane installment or something to really just give us more headway on how the curse actually works in the mind of the killer. We could do it from where Laurie is a good, and we don't reveal that. We just say Laurie is estranged with her family, she doesn't like her last name, she doesn't like to be called by it. And anytime someone says her name, it kind of like cuts off, or she cuts them off, or she says, don't say that. But she's a good. She's aware of the family curse and she hates it. However, she becomes more and more focused on becoming prom queen and realizes that she has an easy way to get rid of the competition. She fights it for a while, and then I guess she has a kind of one-off match with Tiffany, who's her bully, or someone she just kind of is jealous of and aspires to be. And after that, she decides to just say, frick, screw it. I'm going to enact the curse. Sneaks in, does the curse thing, and the mass murder happens. And technically, she is now prom queen. And of course, within that, we would also develop out the characters. We develop out her best friend, whose name I'm forgetting, and give her a prominent role where she is kind of like Laurie's rock in both aspects. So it makes her death more depressing. We give her a love interest that is more than just a cute face. Sorry, Kim Cameron, actor, you're amazing, I love you. But they didn't really give you a lot to work with other than to look cute. We develop him a bit to where they're like, you know, the neighbor next door, or like the science partner, just something cute and kind of tropey that makes you want to root for them, but then also kind of breaks your heart when you realize that Laurie's more focused on prom queen than she is this guy. You flesh out Tiffany. You give her kind of similar to, I guess, Cindy Bergman's plot, and I want to say Kate's plot a little bit more, where she's super popular, but she wants out of shady side. She puts on a persona to be super like put together and very normal, and this normalcy causes some tension between the two girls and Tiffany, because, you know, she has to put down this reminder that she is in shady side, constantly bullies Laurie. Though there is, again, that thread of queerness coming through that implies that maybe there's an attraction there or a crush there or something happened. It could even be like Tiffany says, you rejected me that one time and I have never lived it down. And Laurie, who didn't realize what that rejection meant, the proposal was queerness in nature, can see that, and we get some more development there. And I think that would be really, really cool. I should just start writing movies. I think it'd be a good plot, honestly. I think it'd give us a lot more to work with, and it'll make everything have a lot more gravity and weight and really just kind of break everyone's hearts while we're at it. Moving on to my overall thoughts, there was a lot of potential, as I pointed out in how it affects the movie in this entire review, but it really needed more fleshing out. I said this a lot of my comments with a lot of movies and like media that I consume these days. It was great. It needed more fleshing out. This, I hate to use the word cash grab. I really hate it, but this feels like a cash grab given how poorly this thing did and how much it just strayed from the original work. I'm never one to be like, oh my god, it's a cash grab, because I typically will enjoy those cash grabs, not gonna lie. But this one really just felt like a cash grab to me because it didn't even try to fit into the narrative. It tried to fit into a narrative of like the original 90s to 2000s thrillers of the day, which is on its own, the movie could be fine. It could be like another version of Prom Night in some way, shape, or form, but it tried to fit itself into the trilogy, and it just didn't work out. You can for sure, if you are like sitting here thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'll watch it, I just need to know, you can skip it. And if you ever decide to watch the trilogy for the first time, or you're watching it for the 700th time, you can skip this one. You will not miss much at all. if anything. But that is it for my thoughts on Fear Street Prom Queen. Like I said, if you enjoy this kind of videos, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try to incorporate more and more movie reviews on this channel, aside from my book reviews and the occasional video game review. But until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.